Um, and how do you say your name? Is it Anna or Anna?
Anna.
Anna, and your last name is Howard.
Yes.
So are you originally from Moscow, Russia?
Yes, right outside of Moscow, a suburban city, sort of like the Bronx of
Okay.
Russia.
Okay. And how long ago so you live in Portsmouth now, right?
Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I moved to Massachusetts in 1992, so it will be 30 years in August. I
Wow.
moved as a student and stayed here, so I've lived here for 30 years now almost.
And before Massachusetts was your city outside of Moscow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. Awesome. What made you come to the US? I'm curious.
I came as a student. I was a student in UMass Amherst.
Okay. Right. Now you got me curious. What did you study?
I'm an accountant. I
Oh,
got
cool.
an accounting degree.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so Anna, you guys, you, Charlie, and a bunch of people have been putting on these demonstrations in Market Square in Portsmouth this is going to be the fourth weekend. Is that right?
Unfortunately, the war's still going, so we are still standing.
What made you want to do this?
I was sitting on my couch one Saturday on the phone with Delta, waiting to cancel my trip to Russia because we were supposed to go in May. I was bringing my husband, I was bringing my son, and for the first time, I was bringing my mother-in-law, who is 82-year-old American woman from Billerica, Massachusetts, who decided to go with us. And Delta was taking its time. I was on hold for actually 3 hours. And while I'm sitting waiting for them to pick up, I'm looking at the news, getting more and more frustrated, getting like more and more sad, rage just coming up. And it was just overwhelming. And I'm looking, it was, I think, second day of the war. And I already saw that Russian people are coming out on the streets to protest, despite of the fear of being arrested, of being beaten. And I just thought, what brave people they are, and how I wish I could, join them. Maybe, I don't know. I can't do that reflection if I were there, what I would do. But then I thought, instead of sitting here in helpless rage, maybe I just need to show up somewhere. Like I cannot be on my couch. And I texted my friend with whom I organized the Women's March before. He's from Occupy New Hampshire. And I said, do you want to stand in Market Square with a sign with me tomorrow? And he said, sure. let me contact some friends. He has connections, obviously. And then I emailed the friends I knew. I'm just like, if you want to stand, if you want to do something to show just that, you're not alone in this helpless rage, even if it doesn't do anything. If it does, what are we going to change? We're not going to change Putin's mind, that's for sure. If Biden can't, we cannot, but at least we can support each other and be there for each other. And then I realized that I know some Ukrainian people in the area. So I reached out to them. And you know what? I realized that they felt isolated and disconnected. And I was able to reach out and pull them out of that bubble, and they realized that we support them, and they started making signs, and the whole family showed up. And all of a sudden that rally became meaningful. Even if we can show one family that we're there for them. I had them give me the names of their relatives who are trapped in Ukraine, who are trying to get out, who are in the state of horror, and we made signs with their names, Pavlo, we support you, Ola, we support you, Yulia, we support you. And we took pictures and they sent it to their relatives in Ukraine. And all of a sudden it became, more meaningful than just doing it for our own sanity. We were showing our support to somebody who is actually in danger. So, and then we just kept showing up. It was no more publicity around it. Fewer people showed up because we didn't promote it, but whoever wanted to feel the same way just kept showing up at 4:00 on Sunday. And this one is marking a month of the invasion. So we decided to make it a little bigger. And again, we are reaching out to more people to come and show their solidarity. I have other Ukrainian friends coming up from Massachusetts. I have friends coming from Boston because they want just to be together.
You know, you said at the beginning that you were feeling rage. Can you explain why? I think there are some people who aren't going to understand that there are Russians who, well, I mean, they maybe now have seen that woman who held up the sign on the TV broadcast protesting the war.
That's right. That's right.
What was your reaction to that, by the way?
Oh, she was my new hero. I wanted to find her and hug her and, you know, be with her in court and protect her from everybody who's attacking her. That takes, you know, an enormous amount of courage to do something like that. Let me just give you a little bit of context why I felt rage. Because I was visiting, my family is still there. I came alone. It wasn't like an immigration of the family. So I was very connected to Russia, and I kept going to that Russian Bronx city almost every year, at least once, sometimes twice, to visit my parents and my brother and my high school friends. So I have about 30 people. Russia for me is about 30 people who I love, and sometimes I think if all 30 of them moved to Amsterdam, I wouldn't mind, and I would go to Amsterdam with just as much love as I go to Moscow. So I'm connected to people, not so much to the government, or even, you know, I've seen Red Square, it's pretty, but that's it. What I saw on TV during my visits was a creation of an alternate reality. And at that time, for the last 20 years, when I visited, it just gave me an eye roll, and I would say, turn off that crap. You know, this is propaganda 101. Everybody can see through it. You know, I was just feeling all kind of intellectually superior, thinking, we're not that gullible. What are you doing? And at the beginning of the war, I realized that 20 years of that changed people. And it created this environment. You know, if they heard the same thing over and over again, they started believing it. And there are kernels of truth there, and that's why it's so powerful. The NATO, and that's the Voldemort of Russia, was created to protect some countries from the Soviet Union. Soviet Union has disbanded. NATO has not. So Russia sees NATO as this ultimate organization whose sole purpose is to destroy Russia. That fear gives Putin a great opportunity to consolidate the power and say, I'm the only one who can protect you from it, and everybody who is against me is against Russia. And everybody who says otherwise is an agent of NATO. And that's how this whole machine worked for 20 years, feeding that into the brains. And that's why we see that people right now are saying the war is a fake fabrication. All these things are fabrication of the West. We don't believe that's what's going on. We are just liberating. We're liberating the regions, the Russian-speaking regions of Ukraine from the Nazis, from the oppression that they have held for these last 20 years. And people truly believe that. And it takes a very brave person to see the truth and then to yell it out loud on state TV.
Do you have a sense of how many Russian people are of your mindset that this is all propaganda and what he's doing is wrong, and what percentage of them, and I'm just speaking generally, is it like 50-50, or is it like there's a very small majority that believes what he's doing is right? Putin.
I will give you a little bit of a sociological study that I did on my friends and relatives, okay? And it is based on the population of 10. But I did come to a conclusion that it depends on your age. And there are exceptions from that rule, because I see older people protesting, but not many, mostly. So here's how it goes. If you are 35 and younger, you are kind of, I fall into that category. You see the news, you understand English, you can, you have access to social media, you can see what's going on and you can see alternative views, and those people are ashamed, they're in horror, but at the same time, they see how this is impacting them. They're destroying their future because now they're sanctioned, they're, outcast of the whole world. My second cousin, being the most, I think, kind of progressive in my family, she works for Apple in Moscow. So she speaks English fluently. She already left Russia. She went to Armenia. We are ethnically Armenian. So she's trying to get a different citizenship because she said there is no future with the Russian passport. You won't be able to travel anywhere in the world in the near future. She loves to travel. She runs marathons in Israel. She goes to Madrid, so those kind of cosmopolitan people, they're usually younger people. If you are between like 40 and 50, I can see a lot of this. You can't trust anybody. I don't know what to believe. Everybody's lying to you. We will never know the truth. A lot of that kind of cynicism of what's going on, and we're not going to listen to you, and we're not going to listen to them, and la la la. I'm not turning on the news even. So that's my high school friends. And then if you're like 55 and older, that means you grew up in the Soviet Union. You grew up thinking that Ukraine is part of your country. You grew up going to Crimea like it was Florida. The borders between New Hampshire and Massachusetts are more visible than there used to be in the Soviet Union between Ukraine and Russia. I didn't even know where one started and the other ended. So everybody feels like that was the natural state of things for the Soviet Union to have 15 republics. And they don't have enough knowledge of English. They don't have social media access as easily. So their sole venue of information is that television. It's kind of an equivalent of Fox News. Can you imagine Trump being in power for 20 years and getting rid of everybody who said no to him, and everybody's watching Fox News for 20 years? That would be the result. So this is kind of a parallel there as well.
Got it. Wow. Well, that certainly puts a lot of things in perspective, at least on my end. What are you hoping then for this weekend? You've invited more people because obviously now we're going into a month of this invasion, and you've invited more people to kind of come and stand with you guys. What do you hope this weekend looks like and feels like?
I hope it has more visibility. I hope we have more speakers. I hope we have more engagement in terms of even, what can we do? We can send money. So let's just send money, donate, but we need to know where and how and what's the best way and most direct way. That's one thing. The other thing is I want to show as many Ukrainian people that we care, that somebody cares about them, that sometimes we are just as helpless as they are, but we care, and all we can do is kind of stand together. So one of the things that I'm talking about, actually, I'm going to South Church in Portsmouth on Sunday morning to talk about this. And I'm talking about faith. And I read a book by Sharon Salzberg about faith, and she writes that opposite of faith is not doubt, it's despair. And so here's my attempt at digging out of that pit of despair for myself and for others who can come along. And how do you do it? Those things that you do to dig out of despair are the same things that increase your faith. That's a power of connection that is working for somebody with empathy, that's increasing kind of your capacity to love. And that's what we are trying to do. There is no measurable goal, let's write to your congressman and everything will be okay. Although that's good. But I think my personal purpose is there just to hug people and stand with a peace sign. It sounds silly, but it uplifts me. And I know it uplifts others as well.
The Americans who have been with you, people like Charlie, for example, do you think they understood that there are so many Russians that feel this way about what's happening over there? Or did you have to kind of educate them as you did these demonstrations?
A few people asked me, have you been, like my friends in Russia said, are you being harassed for being from Russia now? Because that's what they hear. And I said, I received more hugs from people than I have in a long time. My boss at work keeps checking on me. My colleagues, coworkers are checking on me. They understand. And Charlie, out of all people, Charlie stood in the center of Boston protesting the Vietnam War. Charlie is, a peace veteran. And I'm just hoping to be like Charlie when I grow up. He did it when it was dangerous. He did it, when it was against the policy. Right now, protesting against Russian government is easy. Protesting against US government in the US is a little more, difficult. So I'm kind of looking up to Charlie to say, all right, if he has done it, and he says it was the change in public opinion that stopped the Vietnam War ultimately, so we cannot give up. And I think by our presence there, maybe we will make a marginal change.
Now, I'm going to ask you a geopolitical question. I mean, because I feel like I have to ask it just with the way things are going. Obviously, President Biden had announced yesterday that he was going to send a lot of weapons and supplies and aid, military aid, to Ukraine. There's been a lot of discussion, especially President Zelensky, when he addressed the Congress on Tuesday, saying, we really need you to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine. The concern, obviously, is if the US gets involved militarily with its own forces, that we could be headed for another world war. You are not the US. I mean, you are the US, right? But you're not necessarily from the US or from Ukraine. You're from Russia. What do you think is the right thing to do here, or at least in your opinion? What do you think would be the right thing to do?
I am such a novice in these political things. I just started,
Well, then
getting into it.
If you don't feel comfortable answering it, that's totally fine. I just felt like, a lot of people have opinions on it, so I felt like I wanted to ask you. That's all.
I know. I know that Biden is in a difficult position, and I think my opinion is not a popular one right now. I'm the peacemaker. I'm a pacifist. I'm kind of like a little bit of a Quaker that way. No-fly zone doesn't mean we're going to put a big sign in the sky that says, please don't fly here. It means we're going to shoot down Russian airplanes if they show up. And we have a madman on the loose. So my friends in Poland are now buying iodine pills because they're concerned that their missiles that US put there, and that's one of those kernels of truth that Putin is using. NATO is expanding their missiles on our borders. They're afraid that will be the first target if something nuclear goes on. So Polish people are in panic. They're taking in Ukrainian refugees, but they know that they will be the ultimate target if it becomes bigger. What do we do right now? Oh God, Chris, don't ask me, right? But I know
that's fine. I know that's kind of a hard question to answer. I just wanted to see if you had an opinion. That's all.
Somehow, I wish 20 years ago we said, all right, enough of NATO. We're going to demilitarize and denuclearize and create this climate of peace. But I think it's a little bit, right now, I don't know what the right thing to do. And that's why I'm not running for any office, Chris.
That's fair. That's completely fair. And I've run out of time for you because I need to make sure you're able to get to your next appointment. But is there anything that I didn't ask you that you feel like I should have asked you, or something that you really wanted to mention that we didn't cover?
This was fantastic. Thank you for all your questions. One thing I wanted to mention, those 30% that are over 55 in Russia that think that they're justified somehow and they're blinded by what they have been hearing for 20 years, they might need our forgiveness too. I'm not a religious person, but every time I think of my aunts and uncles whom I'm like this close to disowning, I'm reminded of the quote, forgive them for what they not know what they do. So this is, and they're not dumb people. They're professors. They have, they're highly educated, but somehow this venom that was being poisoned is just all over the place. They are in minority, but they're not evil.
Yeah, that I understand completely.